오늘은 제규어 디자인 철학과 미래 디자인 방향성은 물론 4세대 자동차 디자이너를 꿈꾸는 학생들께 이안 칼럼 디자인 총괄 디렉터님의 경험을 공유하는 아주 특별한 시간을 갖도록 하겠습니다. 행사는 동시 통역으로 진행되며 좌석에 비치된 리시버를 착용해 주시기 바랍니다. 채널은 1번으로 고정해 주시기 바랍니다. 그럼 이안 칼럼 제규어 디자인 총괄 디렉터님을 큰 박수로 무대 위로 모시겠습니다.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. That was very stimulating, wasn't it? First of all, I'd like to thank Jaguar Korea for making this happen. It's really quite a special event. The whole organisation of this competition has been phenomenal, and it's been so good that I'm going to encourage the rest of Jaguar around the world to think of it in other countries. I'm here because of you. I'm here because of your enthusiasm and your ability. You know, along with my team, we looked at the applications of all these drawings, renderings, ideas, and I have to say the overall effect was astonishing. Hugely talented group of people, so I thank you very much indeed for your efforts, enthusiasm, your imagination, including black holes, which I found quite intriguing, and it's been a fantastic for us.
저희 입장에서도 굉장히 좋은 경험이었습니다. 근데 이번 행사는 여러분에 대한 일인데 다음 30분 동안에는 제 얘기를 좀 들으셔야 될 것 같습니다.
And Jaguar design.
그리고 또 제규어 디자인.
So I'm going to go through a little bit about the Jaguar philosophy. You've heard it before, some of you. So bear with me, I'll go through it very quickly, but it doesn't change, it stays the same. I'll talk a little bit about how I got to the position I'm in today and how it happened. And I want to go through some of the cars that we've designed recently, our current range of cars, and some of the challenges we've had in those cars as well. And then finally on to I-Place concept, which is a car I'm immensely proud of. And then we'll look at some of the winners, and I'll make some comments on them, very positive comments on them at the end. So, first of all, a few of my sayings. This is something that I often say to my team. Design creates order out of chaos, but occasionally you have to create chaos at the very beginning, and that's what you guys are doing at the moment, creating chaos, new ideas, and then my job is to try and bring that into some sense of order. Which is not always easy, incidentally. Clarity of intent. I believe that any final design should have a clarity of intent about it. You should be able to look at it without confusion, without having me to explain to you why it's good and why you enjoy it. It should be very obvious. I also think form and function should work together, but at the very beginning you should decide to what extent form and functions really matter. If you're designing a band for utility purposes, clearly it has to be very square and quite boring. If you're designing a sports car, it has to look good, even sometimes it's a compromise of the package. You have to make that decision yourself. You know, all of this, I believe, should be nothing but beautiful or intriguing. There's no reason for anything that's been designed to be anything other than something to enjoy. And if you look at something that's been designed without that enjoyment, then it's not good enough. I'm sure everybody involved in the product design world will agree with that. So just a reminder of how difficult this job is. You know, it's all very well doing pictures and renderings and drawings that you've just done, but at some point it has to come to reality. And this is really just a touch of grounding you into the future. I'm not suggesting you have to take all this on board just now, but you have to take on board everything that goes into the car. Everything cost, the brand, of course, we've been investigating, safety, investment, how much money we're spending, engineering, marketing, legislation, packaging, and of course manufacturing. And all that has to come together into that product and work. If it doesn't work, the product will never happen. So these are areas and disciplines you need to start to learn through your career as you go through it. You need to pick it up, but it does matter. You can't ignore it. However, when I'm talking to accountants, as I often have to do, all at cost, I do remind them of the saying that Einstein said, everything that can be counted does not necessarily count. And everything that counts cannot necessarily be counted. It's a very big phrase for designers to remember. Bear it in mind. So a little bit of heritage, as I say, you've heard some of this from me before. Jaguar heritage has always been about beauty, simplicity, and performance. It's not necessarily about the details. It's not necessarily about copying the past. It's about understanding the ethos of the brand. And if you look at all these cars there, from the SS100 through to the XJ, they're very different looking cars, very different front ends, they have very different characters, but they do have two or three things in common. They are beautiful lines to enjoy. They are very pure surfaces to enjoy. And they're intriguing. How do you make a car intriguing? You've demonstrated some of this today already. You make a car intriguing by its proportions, the way it sits within its environment, and how you perceive it as an overall shape, and how that car talks to you as an object. But as I said before, heritage can be very challenging indeed, because if you get drawn in too much into literal heritage, it can lead you down the wrong path. You just have to appreciate the values and move forward with them. Now, a little bit about my heritage. You know, I grew up in the 60s. I know that seems like an eternity to some of you. But in the 60s, Jaguar was a very cool brand. You've seen some of the cars you've been inspired by in our heritage. Very cool brand. It's what rock stars and footballers used to drive. And I grew up in a period where Jaguar really had a place in the world about being cool, being really modern, and full of technology. I started off my career really at school. I wanted to be a car designer from the age of 3 or 4 years old. And my first day at school at the age of 5, I took a drawing to my teacher and said, I want to be a car designer when I grow up. And my teacher just smiled and he said, yes, Ian, go back to this. That was me putting my place. However, I persevered regardless of my education. And eventually I wrote to Jaguar because Jaguar for me was the one brand that mattered more than anything else. Probably because where I live in a small provincial town in Scotland, it was the most exotic car I would ever see from day to day. So for me, Jaguar was a very important brand. I eventually went to Glasgow School of Art. I studied product design. I'm a great lover of design as a whole. I think most of us have to be in the car world and understand what's happening out there in other aspects of design. Don't ignore it. It's very, very important. It's part of your life, whether it be architecture, product, fashion, materials, ceramics, photography, art. Absorb it all. I did product design, industrial design at Glasgow School of Art, and then I went on to the Royal College of Art in London. A great experience where I had a lot of fun. Living in London for 2 years is a lot of fun. That's all I'm going to say. So I then went to Ford for 12 years, travelled the world. I was very fortunate to have travelled many places with Ford. Then went on. I was never happy enough though, because I wanted to be the designer that created his own car. Now, does that sound familiar to you? But it does. You almost be designers that create your own car. The chances of that happening are very, very slight. However, you can have a huge influence in what happens within a company. I was very fortunate. I was able to do my own car. I was able to do the Aston Martin EP7 entirely on my own, almost, with the help of a few engineers, of course. And it really became my signature car for my future career. That was a piece of luck that I had that most of you probably never had. I took a big chance. I left Ford, I started on my own. That's what happened. It may happen to you, it may not, but don't be disheartened. Just make sure you're part of a culture where you have a huge influence. That's the main thing. And so I arrived at Jaguar eventually, 18 years ago. And I arrived at Jaguar when we were creating cars that looked like the previous car, and the previous car before that, and the previous car before that. Jaguar had become the heritage brand. It had become the old man's car company. And these cars were very beautiful, but they didn't reflect modernity, they didn't reflect innovation. Technically they did, but aesthetically they didn't. And aesthetics is very important about telling a story. Every design you do must tell a story. We created the XJ, you see the one here? This XJ was the most advanced piece of aluminium construction of any car in the world. And yet it looked like an older car. It didn't tell the right story. It didn't say technology, it said tradition. And so nobody believed how advanced that car actually was. So when I arrived, I actually had to launch that car and didn't fully believe in it because it was too retro for my liking. And so I decided at that point to have to move forward. And at that point, of course, I had to set up a manifesto of what Jaguar should stand for. And I went right back to the roots of when I was a teenager, learning about Jaguar and its values, the very values I spoke about a few minutes ago. So we moved from the old man's car company over the last 15 years to hopefully young man's and young woman's car company. And I think with the advent of our iPads, I think that really has secured that mantle well and truly. We'll get to that point. But that was a long transition. A lot of people said to me over the last few days, Jaguar really has come on a lot in recent years. Well, in recent years, it's taken 15 years to get there. It's a long slog. It takes a long time for overnight success, but you will find out. But persevere, and if you've got a mission with any car company, to move it on, to change it, to take it to a new level, and you should have, then have faith and continue with it. But you have to believe in the brand that you're working for. You have to understand it. You here are looking to the heritage of this car company, you've absorbed it, and you've moved it forward with your ideas. You must do that with any brand you're working with. So a little bit out of design philosophy, excuse me if you've heard this before, but we'll just go through it as a reminder. You know, as I say, Jaguars are all about flowing lines, they're about purity of surface, and about very intriguing, exciting proportions. And then you have two different generations of cars. You've got the E-Type, the Mark II, the XT. Very different cars, actually. All running around about the same time in the 60s. All these cars inspire me tremendously. They all have values which I really understand and love, and yet they're really quite different. And then we try and translate that into our modern cars, the F-Type, the XF, and the XE. These values are still the same, and we'll go into that in a second, but these are the main key words of our heritage. So the first thing is exterior proportions. Now most of you understand this by now. Exterior proportions are what make a car exciting. When we get the dimensions of the car to work with from our packaging department, engineering department, these are quite boring. I'll be honest with you, they're not what we want to make. And so as designers, we have to manipulate them to get the proportions that we want. To get the overhangs right, to get the position of the wheels right, to get the cabin right placed relative to wheels, etc., etc. Now that's millimetre at a time. Millimetre at a time. And as I always say to my team, go for a millimetre a day to make the roof lower or the overhang longer or shorter, whichever way you want to go. Within a week, that's 6 millimetres. Well, here it might be 6 millimetres. In England, it's 5 millimetres. I'm sure you work that out. Surfacing, keep it very simple and pure. I've seen demonstration of this today in some of your work. Keep it very simple and pure. Pure surfaces are a huge joy to watch and look at. And don't make them overly complicated. It's a huge fashion moment to make surfacing and car design very complicated. Lots of facets, lots of corners. I'm happy with that. I'm happy that somebody else is doing it. But for Jaguar, we keep it very pure and very simple. You know, where I learned this was actually looking at the door casing of a Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud. The door opens, and there's this wonderful expanse of clean leather with one armrest on it. And it's slightly padded. And I remember my grandfather saying, that's a boring looking door. He encouraged me to like cars. I said, no, Grandpa, that's a beautiful door. Look at that leather. This goes on forever and ever and ever. And you can enjoy simplicity like that. The other thing to remember, of course, simplicity like that is a lot of discipline. It's about what you do not put in as much as what you do put in. I know it's an old cliche, but believe me, a lot of designers still can't help themselves to go and add stuff when they don't really do it. So keep the surfaces pure, keep the lines pure. And of course, profile and sportiness. We've always got profile and sportiness in certain cars, even when we're doing saloon cars. There's the E-Type, beautiful car, natural profile, the long bonnet, exaggerated, another word we use a lot of. The F-Type naturally falls into place, and then the XF And even though it's a saloon car and a sedan, it still deserves to have a very sporty profile if it's a Jaguar. So we have to try and work that in, regardless of the forces that may be coming against you to do otherwise. I'll talk about that when we talk about XF in a moment.
XF에 대해서 얘기를 할 때 조금 더 설명을 드릴 텐데요.
And interiors are very important as well. In fact, interiors are becoming more and more important all the time. And if you want to guarantee yourself a job in the car industry, become an interior designer. Because that's where the real focus of future car design is going to be. People talk about autonomous design, they talk about features, connectivity. But the fact is, we spend so much time in our cars. And what we do in the car becomes much more important. Connectivity being one of them, of course. So learn about interiors, learn about the technology that interiors have, what they deserve, and what's out there you can pull into the interior of the car. It's a huge world out there of ideas, and it can all come into the interior in one way or another. So what made us so special in Jaguar, of course, our interiors were authentic. Great materials, wood, leather, whatever it might be, the dials. I remember sitting in a Mark II Jaguar at quite a young age, back in the early 60s, and being overawed by this wonderful piece of wood across the dashboard. And it was huge, it was all wood, walnut, half a tree in front of me. But in that half a tree were lots of dials, lots and lots of dials, and lots of switches. I know it's a bit of a boy thing that, but it felt like I was in an aircraft. It felt like I was about to take off. So remember that emotional value of having things in the interior that make you feel better. And it has to tell a story about performance. Make it feel as if you're going to have performance in the whole experience of the car. But the one thing I always insist on in interiors is keep the architecture simple. Make sure you've got one or two strong lines in it, simple form. Keep the architecture simple, and that way it allows you to put lots of detail to the time you can really enjoy doing. Because detail is everything now in the interior. How it works, the tactile feel of it, the texture of the switches, the rotaries, everything else. And I'm a great believer incidentally that the whole interior should not go digital. I know there's a huge temptation moment to have these great big screens the size of the television, and everything's on that. And it's a fashion. I'm sure it'll come and it'll go. In Jaguar, what we're trying to do is break that down into elements. There's still a tactile feel in the interior. It's a personal view I have, I might be wrong. But I just feel that if you're driving at 100 kilometers per hour, or 120 or 130, or even 150, or even 200 kilometers per hour, yes, some of us do that sometimes. You don't want to be looking at a screen trying to find the particular command that you might do if you're using an iPad. You don't have time. And you feel your way around the car and switch things on easily without too much interaction with the flat screen. A personal view, I'm sure the trend will take us to bigger screens and bigger screens and bigger screens, but the Jaguar we're breaking it down into elements. So just a little bit about our products. Our small car, our smallest car currently, to compete with the 3 Series and the C-Class and the Audi A4 of course. A very difficult project this because the dimensions of this car are very generic. If you take the dimensions from the package layout, they're almost identical as a 3 Series BMW. But we didn't want a 3 Series BMW, we wanted something that had a sense of spirit and movement. And so we pushed and pulled the overall package of this at the same millimeters at a time. The great thing about this car was it's an all-new architecture, so design is able to actually choose where the wheel would sit, where the cabin would sit, and where the front end could sit, etc., etc. And that was a great opportunity to create a profile that is more exciting than the competition. That's my personal view. Have a look at XC next time you see it. You'll see the bonnet of it is a little bit longer than it really needs to be. The cabin is rearward. It has a real sports car stance to it. And of course a shorter overhang than perhaps some of our competitors. So the wheels as if they're at each corner. So that subtlety of moving things around at that stage was a great asset to us. And something doesn't happen very often because usually you get a set of dimensions which you have to hold religiously. In this case, we were allowed to manipulate them. And as a result, I think we got a very sporty car. It still fits within the package of a 5-seater. XF, the second generation XF,
최적을 맞췄던 것입니다. XF
very challenging. The first generation was very sporty.
어려웠습니다. 첫
It
번째
probably lacked a little bit of room in the back as a result of that sportiness. We were challenged by marketing to make this car much more useful, more cabin space, higher roof. And so we set about creating something which is more practical. Now, practicality and Jaguar design doesn't always go hand in hand very easily. We do find resist that sometimes. But sometimes even we've got to be sensible and decide this car has a place to compete with the likes of the 5 Series and the A6. And so we created a package, yet still around the silhouette. But to give the car some visual length, we created one line from the front to the back. Very, very important to create something that's that strong and that deliberate, because the profile of the car is becoming more normal. So you have to exaggerate something, you have to pull something out of the design that really stands out. When you see one of these XFs on the road, just have a look at that sweeping coach line, that body line that goes from the front to the rear. It's got real strength and tension in it. XJ, you know very well, the XJ sells very well here, and it's 2 years old now. It was a great challenge at the time because we were replacing the previous XJ, which is very traditional. And in spite of lots of resistance at the time to create something this radical, we came out at the end with a car which really does embody the very essence of Jaguar design. Proportions, great proportions, that goofy profile. And yes, a very controversial rear end to the car with the tail lamps you're familiar with wrapped over the top. I just simply thought to myself, I want something different here that is not tail lamp running around the side, which is a generic way of running any tail lamp. Why can it run over the top with the length of the car, again exaggerating the length? So this car has been very successful for us over the past 5-6 years now, and it still holds its own. Now a lot of people say to me, well, you know, it's getting old this car. Go and stack it up against the latest, dare I say, BMW and Mercedes. And I'll guarantee you'll decide that this car is more exciting because it is exaggerated, the profile is very sporty, and it's got certain stance to it which says, drive me. Now one of my favourites, of course, F-Type. Now this was a car that really replaced the E-Type from 50 years ago. I was very privileged to be involved in something that replaced a car that I worshipped all these years ago. So when we created it, it was all about wrapping the sheet metal around the mechanics of the car as tightly as possible, and at the same time trying to get some form out of it to give the car a stretch. And the one thing I really wanted to do with this car was give it a dropped-off tail end, which really focused around the tail lamps. It met with some resistance when we did this because the attitude at the time, even within my own design team, was trying myself a very high tail and something that had an attitude from front to rear with the higher tail. And I said, no, we're going to drop the tail off, we're going to bring it down to almost a datum line, which is low enough to the pinpoint to the rear of the car. And that really is what makes this car work, especially in a coupe. And it has a profile which is quite unique. I say unique, I know there's a few people are starting to copy it now, so we've got that for us. But it's something that we're very proud of to have created a sports car that still has expression of a sports car. And I have to say I drive one of these every day and I'm very proud of it indeed. I'm very lucky, I know. In the back of the room there, of course, we've got Project 7, a derivative of the F-Type. We built a couple of hundred of them, very unique cars. And if anybody's thinking of buying one, they're very expensive. But that was a good bit of fun that we had, taking the F-Type convertible and giving it literally some heritage from the D-Type Jaguar. It was a bit of fun. It was never really meant to happen. This is the power of design. We created a one-off for the Google Festive stage, and suddenly the company wanted to build a limited number. So by building one-off, had a bit of fun. We ended up creating a small production run. And this is the trouble with flying around the world all the time. You lose your voice. So, and then of course F-Pace. Wow, what a journey that was. The first question I was asked when I joined Jaguar in 1999, probably before some of you were born, I think, should we do an SUV? And I said no. What? A Jaguar SUV? Forget it. We're a sports car company. I was asked the same question 5 years later, I said no. Anyway, about 5 years ago I was asked the question again. I said, okay then, let's have a go at it. because it became even clear to me this is what the world wants. But from US to Europe to Asia, people love SUVs. Why do they love them? Because they're practical, they're useful. You can get family, kids, dogs, sporting equipment, you get it all in there. And as long as it's a Jaguar, you can drive it like a sports car. Because the technology now allows us to drive cars like this as if it's a sports car. And so I decided at that point that I would endorse the idea and go with the idea of creating an SUV. Very difficult for us because we wanted to capture the essence of Jaguar, so we put the lines in it that are familiar to us, such as the F-Type. We exaggerated the length of the bonnet, we lowered the roof, we did all the things we had to do for Jaguar, and we ended up with the car we've got. I like to think it works as a Jaguar SUV, not just an SUV that happens to be a Jaguar. There's a subtle difference there. And the car does have drama, and it does have a strong amount of presence and great proportions. And of course it's got big wheels. We all love big wheels, don't we? I know the engineers hate you for it, but here you go. We work it through. And then finally the I-Pace. Now we launched this at LA a few weeks ago. And this is a car that's been in the back of my mind for many, many years. The idea of taking an SUV and creating almost a cab forward exotic sports car proportion to it. Of course, it was never really feasible because internal combustion industry has so much room in the front. To be able to get the cabin nestled between the front wings was almost impossible. We were suddenly given the idea of an electric car, and so we embraced the whole notion of moving the package forward, taking cab forward, taking more space inside than you would normally have for a car of this length. This car is the same size as a Porsche Macan. It's the same room inside as a Porsche Cayenne. That's the advantage of an electric platform. It's a phenomenal piece of kit, and it's something we're hugely proud of. So we took this to LA a few weeks ago, and I have to say the reaction has been phenomenal. I don't know if you've seen the world press. I think the press day has been very good too. It has been huge. Now the reality is that this car, we're going to build it in about 18 months' time. So although this may be a concept, it was actually designed alongside the real production car. So there may be some exaggeration in some of the details, but not much. And I don't think the customers are going to be too disappointed with this. This is the chassis for it, and you can see where the freedom comes. This is why I love electric cars. We can really build exciting stuff around this. You can imagine as a designer what you can do with this chassis. Just about anything. And because we could just about anything, we could do just about anything. We created the I-Pace as it is. From the ground up, logically, correctly, with integrity, the cabin where it should be, but at the same time, with all the drama, with all the drama of a Jaguar. Now, I talked about exaggeration before. Now, Jaguars always had exaggeration. In the old days, they had the engine in the front, the long bonnet, like the E-Type, that was exaggerated. The SS100 was exaggerated. The XJ was exaggerated. It was lower than any other car that there was around. This is exaggerated because all the visual weight is going towards the front, with the emphasis in front wheel, sweeping from the front wheel. So, that exaggeration still prevails. That intrigue still prevails. Here's another couple of pictures of it. I hope you like it. It actually is my favourite car that I've ever worked on. And the team, I have to say, really enjoy working on it as well. And a lot of this car, incidentally, stems from aerodynamics. Another big subject you're going to have to learn is aerodynamics. It's very real now. With electric cars coming, aerodynamics is becoming more important. And so really learn about it and learn to work with it. And the way we work with aerodynamics now is incrementally from the front, through the car, little by little, until it comes off the back of the car. A bit like a Formula 1 car. You incrementally manage it here all the way to under, over the car. And it's quite an intriguing subject. A lot of people say, why have you got a conventional front in it? Well, because a Jaguar over the last few years, I've wanted to create a face that people recognise as being a Jaguar. We're not that well known around the world, believe it or not. The brand is, the products are not. And so we have to create a collective face that people understand, look at and say, wow, that's a Jag. Now we're going to start changing that soon into a slightly different face over the next few years. But we've now got a family of cars, including the I-Pace, which is distinctly a Jaguar. And that way we can actually show the world we have a complete range. Remember, 2-3 years ago we had 3 cars. We now have 4, we're about to have 5, we're about to have 6. Maybe even a couple of years we might have 7 cars. So that phase is very important to recognize who we are and what we stand for. Interior, very, very important. I said interior is becoming more important all the time. We've got a new touchscreen system in this. We've got 3 screens altogether, the TFT screen for the driver. We've got a touch screen in the middle, and we've got a secondary screen down the centre console. And because of the car package, we've got a lot more room in the centre console.
광고한 것 같은데.
that we can use the advantage of the
점점 광고의 느낌이 나고.
We really worked hard to maximize that space, whether it be underneath the centre console film,
광고의 느낌.
and the cubby box, as we call it, in the centre. It's actually big enough to take a handbag. So ladies have finally found somewhere for you to put your handbag. Very important. So that's me finished and my design talk. We'll take some questions in a little while. But first of all, let's just go through briefly the 3 winners that we got today. Congratulations to all of you. I have to say at this point, it was very difficult getting to 3 people at the end, 3 results at the end, because really the standard is very, very high indeed. And it almost becomes very subjective. So if you didn't win the top 3, don't be disheartened, you're probably very, very close. And you say it's very subjective, but you pick these for particular reasons. My design team loved looking through them, by the way, so, and so did the judges here as well. It's quite inspiring. The A1, the one with the brain up front, I like the idea of taking the engine out, putting the brain in there, and driving the car for you. It certainly is very creative, the idea of replacing effectively the reason for a long bonnet is that you put a robot in there that drives you. And I think a lot of the expression of this car really comes forward inside you of it. I love the way it drives off the front wheel and sweeps over the back into that lovely jagged tail. So there's a bit of visual heritage here as well. And the idea of the vents coming in and going out again and coming out and going in again and really controlling the air, I think there could be something in that that really works. CX100, so that's 25 years on from CX75. But what I loved about this car was just its pure, I know there was a lot of intellect behind it, I listened to the intellect, but the reality is this is pure drama and artistry of this car was really quite fascinating. And yes, you have taken on CX75 to next stage, and I love the idea you managed to take it from 13 through to CX75 and CX100. Some of the lines in these are really quite beautiful, and the interaction of the form of that golden area within the body, I think it's a beautiful piece of artwork. And the drawing standard in this car is really quite incredible. So congratulations, there's a lot of great ideas here, but manifest themselves as a really big piece of art. So great artistry. And I love the intersection of forms combined with the intersection of graphics. And that makes it a bit sort of ethereal at the moment, but it does mean something to me. And here we have a black hole. It's a scary black hole, isn't it? However, it's a great piece of creativity. The B-type, and I love the idea that you've really captured, if I take the aesthetic, put the black hole to one side, so I'm not sure I want to go into the black hole. But the aesthetic is really captured off the D-types, and the C-types, incidentally, where you have that negative front end. And I think the idea of using this negative form in front is really very brave. Used to do it in the 50s, quite fascinating, and actually very good aerodynamically as well. And the idea of the cab forward again, something we all seem to like, and the large seat pillar gives the car a fundamental strength. But this side profile is actually very exotic. There's something very sweet about it, but also very powerful. And so I congratulate you for that. There's lots of lovely ideas right through all of these. And I'll just leave you with this thought. Imagination is more important than knowledge. I know a lot of scientists would agree with that. But as a scientist said it with Einstein, the knowledge is limited to all that we know and understand. Our imagination embraces the entire world, and all that ever will know will be understood in the future. So remember that your imagination is actually more important than knowledge you already know. Okay, thank you.